Hello friends, I am Ambika. Welcome to SA Educational Hub, a platform to share knowledge, service providers Situn and Ambika. In this Python tutorial video, we will learn integer type, floating point numbers, exponential notation, and complex numbers. Numeric data types in Python. Integer type. The integer or int data type values are whole numbers. An integer type is a number without a fraction part, that is, numbers without a decimal point. The numbers 9, 123, 0 and minus 27 are examples of integer data types. There is no limit for the length of the integer value, apart from what can be stored in available memory. Integer values are represented by the int class in Python. Example. In this example, an integer value 27 is assigned to the variable a. In the next statement, an integer value 0 is assigned to the variable b. In the next step, an integer value minus 9 is assigned to the variable c. The following print statement, print a, will display the integer value 27. The next print statement, print b, will display the integer value 0. The statement print c will display the integer value minus 9. We can get the data type of an object by using the built-in function type in Python. The last three print statements, print type a, print type b and print type c, will display the data type of the variables a, b and c respectively. Here the data types are int. The integer data type is represented by the int class in Python. Data types are classes and variables are objects of these classes in Python because everything is an object in Python. Floating point numbers. Numbers with a decimal point are called floating point numbers or floats. Floating point numbers having a whole number followed by a decimal point and the fractional part. The numbers 27.9, minus 0.5, 0.0, 0.9, 27.0 and 1.23 are examples of floating point numbers. Even though the value 27 is an integer, the value 27.0 would be a floating point number. Floating point values are represented by the float class in Python. Example. In this example, a floating point number 27.5 is assigned to the variable a. In the following statement, a floating point number minus 0.5 is assigned to the variable b. In the next statement, a floating point number 0.0 is assigned to the variable c. The following print statement, print a, will display the floating point number 27.5. The next print statement, print b, will display the floating point number minus 0.5. The statement print c will display the floating point number 0.0. We can get the data type of an object by using the built-in function type in Python. The last three print statements will display the data type of the variables a, b and c respectively. Here the data types are float. The floating point data type is represented by the float class in Python. Data types are classes and variables are objects of these classes in Python. Exponent form. The floating point numbers may also be expressed in exponential notations. For instance, the number 123.45 may be expressed as 1.2345 e2 in exponential notations. e2 means multiply by 10 to the power of 2. The format is mantissa e exponent. The mantissa is either an integer or a real number. The exponent is an integer with an optional plus or minus sign. The e that separates the mantissa and the exponent can be written in either uppercase or lowercase. For example, 0.98 e4, 1.23 e3, minus 1.2e minus 1 and 1.4e plus 5 are floating point numbers. Exponential notation is very useful for expressing numbers that are either very large or very small. Example. In this example, a floating point number in the exponential form 0.98e4 is assigned to the variable a. Similarly, a negative floating point number in the exponential form minus 1.2e minus 1 is assigned to the variable b. Here, exponent is negative. In the next statement, a floating point number in the exponential form 1.4e plus 50 is assigned to the variable c. We can omit the plus sign because by default it is positive. The following print statement, print a, will display the floating point number 9800.0. Similarly, the next print statement, print b, will display the floating point number minus 0.12. The following print statement, print c, will display the floating point number 1.4e plus 50. We can get the data type of an object by using the built-in function type in Python. The last three print statements will display the data types of the variables a, b and c respectively. Here the data types are float. The floating point number data type is represented by the float class in Python. If your number is either very large or very small, then the output will be displayed in exponential notation. Otherwise, the output will be displayed in general form, not in exponential notation. For instance, in our example, 0.98e4 will be displayed in general form, whereas the number 1.e plus 50 will be displayed in exponential notation. Complex numbers. A complex number is a combination of a real and an imaginary number. What is an imaginary number? An imaginary number is a real number multiplied by the square root of minus 1. An imaginary number can be written in the form z is equal to bj, where b is a real number and j, uppercase and lowercase, represents an imaginary unit square root of minus 1. The square of an imaginary number bj is minus b square. For example, 3j is an imaginary number and its square is minus 9. 0 is considered to be both real and imaginary. Examples of imaginary numbers are 3.14j, 10.j, 10j, 0.001j, 1e100j. In other words, an imaginary number is a complex number with a real part of 0.0. A complex number is a combination of a real and an imaginary number. A complex number can be written in the form of a plus bj, where both a and b are real numbers. A is the real part and b is the imaginary part. For example, 7j, here real part is 0 and 9 plus 7j are complex numbers. Complex numbers are represented by the complex class in Python. Example. A complex number is a combination of a real and an imaginary number. In this example, a complex number 7j, here real part is 0, is assigned to the variable a. Similarly, in the next statement, a complex number 9 plus 7j is assigned to the variable b. The following print statement, print a, will display the complex number 7j. The next print statement, print b, will display the complex number 9 plus 7j. If your number has only an imaginary part, that is the real part is 0, for instance 7j, then the output will be displayed without parentheses. If your number has both real and imaginary parts, for instance 9 plus 7j, then the output will be displayed within parentheses. The last two print statements will display the data types of the variables a and b respectively. Here the data types are complex. The complex number data type is represented by the complex class in Python. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Previous video was what is a data type in Python. Next video is Boolean data type in Python. Contact us ambikarai27@gmail.com. Thank you.